Welcome everyone! In this video, we are going to be diving into my top 5 best teams for the Color Cup. The Color Cup is a brand new meta introduced in Season 14 of Pokemon Go Battle League, and it takes place at the Great League format, which is a max CP limit of 1500 or less, and it only allows fire, water, grass, and electric types. So should be pretty interesting. It just gives us a nice option as opposed to the Open Great League, which, that's a set meta. So having a nice change of pace is always nice, and that is exactly what we will have with the Color Cup. And without further ado, let's dive into team number 1. Alright guys, here we go. Team number 1, a very powerful Color Cup team, likely the best team that you could actually roll with for the Color Cup, and it leads with Toxipex on the lead, Trevenant on the safe swap, and Tropius in the back to close the game strong. So by now, we should all have access to a Tropius, given that we recently had the Hoenn Cup, the Hoenn Tour. Well, we did have the Hoenn Cup, but we also had the Hoenn Tour, which actually gave us access to Tropius, so we should all have one by now, and this is a very powerful ABB-style team for you guys. And let's have a look at this scorecard here, and there you have it, my friends. We get an A for coverage, A for bulk, B for safety, and an A for consistency. You don't really get much better than that, especially for a specialty cup like the Color Cup. Let's have a look at these matchups here. So, Toxipex ranked 1 overall in the entire meta, and that is because it is quite bulky. And it's one of the few poison types in this meta, and it's shaping out to be a pretty grass and water heavy meta, which is why Toxipex will be so effective. So we're rolling with it on the lead, and you're not going to have too many problems with the way this team is aligned. The only true core breaker that you have would be Togedemaru, and you may see a few of those out there. So that one, you kind of have to employ some tactical maneuvering, as I refer to it. You could play it a number of ways. The most effective way, I would say, would be to go immediately into your hardest counter, which happens to be Trevenant. What you could try to do is hang in there long enough to put the pressure on. They have to land a wild charge. In fact, they need 2 to KO. And that's going to force them to debuff themselves and have to start shielding. So what you could do is Toxipex does tank 1 wild charge. And it's going to still be pretty hard for them to farm down, even though they are dealing super effective fast move pressure. You could try and pressure shields with a Brine. I don't think you'll make it to 2 before the whole scenario plays out. And they will likely look to go for back-to-back wild charges, so you will likely have to give up 1 shield. But ultimately, your goal with the Togedemaru lead is to have it aligned onto the Trevenant. So for them forcing themselves to swap out kind of gives you the edge. That's kind of how I would play it, because they're going to have to start giving up their shields once they get off that first debuff with the first wild charge. So you could play it out that way. And that's how I would play that. But other than Togedemaru, you're going to be looking really good. As we can see, Toxipex wins a lot on the lead, and that is because it is quite effective for this meta. Anything else like a Ferrothorn or any other grass type, both of your 2 Pokemon have the coverage for that in the back. So the only one you really need to look out for on the lead is Togedemaru. That is team number 1. Toxipex on the lead, Trevenant on the safe swap, and Tropius in the back. So with all that said, that is team number 1. Let's have a look at team number 2. All right, guys, here we go. Team number 2, another very solid team for the Color Cup, and it leads with Abomasnow on the lead, Toxipex on the safe swap, and Credilli in the back to close the game strong for you. So rolling with Abomasnow on the lead, that is meant to pick up the counters to the likely very common Toxipex leads, which will be the electrics and some of the grass types. And that is how this team is constructed, is to put you that much further ahead by leading with a counter for the counters for for the Toxipex lead. So let's have a look at this scorecard here for team number 2. Not bad, very solid. We get an A for coverage, A for bulk, C for safety, and an A for consistency. Very similar scorecard to team number 1. And just so that you guys know, safety, especially with the limited metas like this color cup here, the safety score is the one that I give the least amount of weight, and that's just because that's the only subjective metric here when we're evaluating a team. So I don't weight that one quite as high, so having a C there or even a D isn't really that bad, especially with a specialty cup. So let's have a look at these matchups here. So Abomasnow on the lead is going to be quite strong. You just really have to protect it from the Toxipex leads, which I'm predicting will be quite common, as generally people see the number 1 Pokemon, they think, oh, I'll lead with that. So that's generally how it goes. And you'll want to be ready for that, which is why we've got a Toxipex of our own on the safe swap and a Credeli in the back, as Credeli only takes neutral damage from those poison jabs and can hit back with heavy neutral damage with the charge moves. Abomasnow, again, going to be quite solid. So the team is not really ABA weak to fire, but fire types on the lead can be quite problematic. And I don't anticipate we will see a lot of fire types being used in the meta, but they could be out there. And if that becomes a problem for you, being the fire types on the lead, you can just easily bump Toxipex up to the lead, and you can either safe swap Abomasnow or Credeli. Both will work just fine as a safe swap. So the key fire types in the meta will be Alolan Marowak. You could see some Victinis, although it doesn't run a fire type fast move. And Ninetales. Those are the top 3 fire types, and Charizard here and there, but I doubt that you will be seeing those on the lead. Those will likely be utilized more so as either a closer or a safe switch. So you won't have to worry too much about Charizard on the lead, although you could see it. And like I said, if fire types become a big problem for you with leading with Abomasnow, just bump Toxipex up to the lead, and that should clear up that problem for you. The biggest thorn in your side, speaking of, will be Ferrothorn. I don't know if I should intend that to be a pun or not, but it just sort of worked out that way. But Ferrothorn will be a problem. All 3 Pokemon do neutral damage to it, so it'll take a bit of a team effort. As I always say, one Pokemon cannot do it all, and it's really not as bad as you would think, because the recommended secondary move is Flash Cannon. And they have to land that on Abomasnow to do any meaningful damage. You just have to, it's a bait game with those, but if you play out the 2 shield, you should be doing fine. But if you want to preserve your Abomasnow, you could get it down to about 50% health and then look to make a play into your Toxipex safe swap. That's how I would tackle that. It's going to be a team effort between, I'm sorry, not all 3 do not deal neutral damage. Credeli does not, but Abomasnow and Toxipex do. So it's going to be a team effort between those 2. You just want to keep the Ferrothorns far and away from your Credeli. So that's how I would play that. And everything else is pretty straightforward. Even something like a Galvantula is going to struggle in the 2 shield if you encounter it on the lead. So not too bad, really. Team number 2 is quite solid scorecard, solid team overall, and it leads with Abomasnow on the lead, Toxipex on the safe swap, and Credeli in the back to close the game for you. So that is team number 2, and with all that said, let's have a look at team number 3. Okay, here we go, team number 3, another powerful team for the Color Cup, and another team featuring Toxipex, surprise, surprise. Basically, you kind of need Toxipex if you're serious about competing in this meta, but it's well worth. Very strong Pokemon. So we're leading with it on the lead, and it's a double steel backline featuring Togedemaru on the safe swap and Ferrothorn to close. So I wanted to give you guys a solid double steel line, and as we all know, steel, an amazing defensive typing, the best defensive typing to be exact. And with a meta that's going to have so much grass, it's going to be featuring a lot of grass. I think double steel will be quite strong. So let's have a look at the scorecard here. And by the way, that's not a mistake. Togedemaru, it is running Gyro Ball. I'm going to recommend Gyro Ball on the safe swap. It'll give you the broadest coverage. So let's have a look at the scorecard here. And look at that. A for coverage, B for bulk, C for safety, and an A for consistency. Not bad at all for team number 3. Let's have a look at these matchups here. And as we mentioned with the previous 2 teams, Toxipex is going to be very strong, especially on the lead. You're going to be a winning lead quite a bit. If you're met with a Toxipex mirror matchup, this is one where you can absolutely swap out on. You'll want to swap into Togedemaru to draw out a Trevenant. That's what Togedemaru's job is. And to draw out any other hard counters to Ferrothorn, could be a fire type as well that you draw out. You want to draw out that hard counter so that Ferrothorn can be clear to sweep the end game. That's how the team is designed. And having that steel coverage move of Gyro Ball on Togedemaru on the safe swap is key, because if they meet you with a Trevenant, which is really what you want to draw out, because Trevenant counters Ferrothorn pretty hard, you want to be able to hit Trevenant for some meaningful damage. And Gyro Ball, although not the best move in the world, still hits pretty hard coming from a Togedemaru, and it does have stab. So that's why you'll want that particular moveset if you're running it on the safe swap for team number 3. Now, I will mention, if you're seeing a lot of Mud Boys on the lead, and I do include Stunfisk as an honorary Mud Boy, that being the original Unova Stunfisk, along with Whiscash, Swampert, the usual suspects. If you're seeing a lot of that on the lead, you can just bump Ferrothorn up to the lead, and that should clear up that problem for you. But otherwise, running it this way will be quite effective for you. Ferrothorn on the lead will take a team effort, but Toxipex can hang in there with it. At least for a little bit, chip away at it, and then you can make a play into your safe swap and look to play on from there. Even resisted damage coming from Togedemaru hits pretty hard on Pokemon that would be resisting its charge moves. So you don't really have to worry too much about that, although a Ferrothorn on the lead will take a team effort. Galvantula can also be a bit of a problem with this team, but Toxipex really does start to dig in, as Galvantula is not known for its bulk. You can definitely tank a discharge. I would let the first move go through and then just try and really put the pressure on the Galvantula if you do encounter it on the lead. And eventually you'll want to make a play into Togedemaru, but once you grab at least one shield, you should be fine, because you'll be able to land a wild charge, and by then the fast move pressure that they've taken, the wild charge should KO. So that's how I would tackle Galvantula on the lead, and that's about it. Team 3, pretty straightforward. It's a strong double steel line featuring Toxipex on the lead, and again, I cannot stress enough how important it is to have Gyro Ball on the safe swap if you run this team. So that is team number 3, Toxipex lead, Togedemaru on the safe swap, and Ferrothorn in the back. Promise this will be the last Toxipex team, but that just goes to show how strong it is in the meta. So that is team number 3, and with all that said, let's have a look at team number 4. All right, here we go. Team number 4, another solid and powerful team for the Color Cup. We've got Luxray on the lead, Shadow Luxray that is, Walrein on the safe swap, and Tropius in the back. So Shadow Luxray is going to be quite strong, quite intimidating in this Color Cup meta because it hits like a truck. We just really wanted to protect it from the Mud Boys and the grass types. That's why we've got this particular backline here. Let's have a look at the scorecard. And not bad, very solid. A for coverage. Do get a C for bulk. Shadow Luxray in the Great League format has that effect on a bulk score, I must say, but that's not a big deal, really. B for safety and a B for consistency. So very solid scorecard. Let's have a look at these matchups here. So Luxray on the lead. meant to pick up those strong water type leads like Toxipex and others like Mantine. You may see Mantine's going to be quite strong in the meta, as well as any other flying types. So Luxray is going to be very strong, particularly on the lead where you have the option to swap out after debuffing yourself. The biggest problem with the team that you may run into is a potential Ferrothorn lead. But as I mentioned, that wild charge with stab, even when resisted, absolutely chunks. So the play for a Ferrothorn lead is to go for back-to-back wild charges. You will have to shield up a Grass Knot in the process, but you will do big damage. They will likely let the first one go, and you will likely grab a shield on the second one. As they see how much damage that will do, they will undoubtedly shield the second one, because 2 wild charges nearly take out a Ferrothorn. Might actually even do the trick, given the fast move pressure. So Ferrothorn on the lead, not too bad. You'll either take it out or grab a shield, and then you can make a play in the wall rain and try and get rid of that thing. I don't recommend safe swapping Tropius just because there could be an ice type lurking in the back, and that would be quite problematic. Although the ice types in this meta, Tropius can fight back against those as well. So depending on your team read, you could safe swap Tropius, but it's a bit more risky than Wall Rain, I would say. And that's really the biggest problem. Cordelia is very similar to Ferrothorn in the problems that it can cause for Luxray on the lead, but that's the same strat. Back-to-back wild charge, then make the play in the Wall Rain. That's how I would play Cordelia. And anything else, pretty straightforward. You're swapping out on those grass and Mudboy leads into your Wall Rain safe swap, and you should have a good game from there. So that is team number 4. Luxray, Shadow on the lead, Wall Rain on the safe swap, and Tropius in the back to close the game strong. So that is team number 4. And with all that said, let's have a look at team number 5. All right, last but certainly not least, team number 5. A very fun triple ghost team, leading with Alolan Marowak on the lead, Trevenant on the safe swap, and Jellicent in the back to close the game strong. I wanted to give a team that has a strong fire type lead, and it just so happened that the 2 Pokemon that I chose to back our fire type lead also happen to be ghost types, so always fun when it works out that way. But yeah, Marowak on the lead, gonna be throwing a lot of your opponents for a surprise. It's going to be an unpleasant surprise for those people trying to get ahead of the game, and those people who will be running Ferrothorns, Trevenants. Alolan Marowak's going to throw them off their game quite a bit and be quite effective. Let's have a look at this scorecard. A for coverage, C for bulk, B for safety, and a B for consistency. That's a pretty solid scorecard for team number 5. Let's have a look at these matchups here. And like I said, I wanted to give you guys a strong fire type lead to get ahead of all of those Abomasnow leads, all of those Ferrothorn leads, and just all of the grass in general. Alolan Marowak is going to be throwing a lot of your opponents off their game, and that is how you get ahead and go Battle League, starting off with a strong lead that a lot of people won't really be accounting for. So you will obviously run into some problems if you are met with a water type on the lead. That's why we've got Trevenant and Jellicent in the back. Both resist water, and the most common water type will be Toxipex. Trevenant does not resist the fast move pressure, takes neutral, but Jellicent does. And Trevenant's going to be the most reliable safe swap option on this particular team here. So any water type lead, you're getting the heck out of there into Trevenant. And you will likely draw out a Toxipex or a fire type. And that's fine. That's the beauty of Trevenant. It can often flip switch for you or grab a shield advantage, which is all you can ask for out of a strong safe swap option. So yeah, the dynamics of the team, pretty straightforward. Water type leads, you're getting out of there in the Trevenant, and you're going to either try and flip switch or grab a shield advantage for Jellicent to perhaps sweep the end game. That's how the team is designed. The only leads you're really swapping out on are the water types. So everything else in between, you can hang in there with your Marowak and go to work with your Fire Spin, Fast Move, Pressure. You can run either the Shadow or the non-Shadow. Both will work in this particular situation. And like I said, you're going to be throwing a lot of teams off, guys. Getting off to a good start, because a lot of people are going to be leading with Abomasnow and Ferrothorn, and there are few better answers to those two than Alolan Marowak. So that about wraps it up. Those are my top 5 best teams for the Color Cup. Should be fun. Just like I said, it's a nice change of pace for those of you who might get a little bored and stale with the Open Great League. Always nice to have a second option to shake things up a bit and have a nice change of pace. So I'm looking forward to it. I'll definitely be featuring some teams in the Color Cup, and should be a lot of fun. But guys, I had a blast. I hope you all enjoyed. As always, I thank you for watching, and keep up the grind. Thank you, guys.